This year, Hurricane Week is going to progress slightly differently than what you're used to. Throughout the week, we're going to be going chronologically from the first storm to the last, and then on Saturday, you'll get the chance, along with everyone else, to vote for which one of the 100 is your favourite. Tonight we begin with Cyclone Nargis of 2008 in the North Indian Ocean, and this is the most recent terrible storm to affect the basin. By that I mean over 100,000 fatalities, a ridiculously high number, but a number that is soberingly true. A storm that initially stalled as a Category 1 cyclone in the middle of the Bay of Bengal, didn't know quite where it wanted to go, then moved off to the northeast, weakened slightly, then back into a cyclone, and then off towards its finale, its peak, as a Category 4 storm before making landfall in Myanmar, Burma. It then moved towards the northeast, passing very close to the capital Yangon, and then inland over sparsely populated areas as a tropical depression. Well, there it is. That was a storm near its peak. Its wind speed was around 130 miles an hour, its pressure close to 937 millibars, but the fatality count is what really captures the attention: 138,366, with $10 billion in damages. Some of our team members, specifically Devon, thinks that number, the fatality count, may well be grossly underestimated, and it's certainly not for me to say that may not be true. Now on to Tropical Storm Hermine, which began life as a tropical depression before making landfall in Mexico from the Pacific, moving north into the Atlantic, passing very close to Veracruz, and then becoming a tropical storm and making landfall near its peak intensity just shy of hurricane status, just south of the border. It then moved over Texas as a tropical storm and weakened to a tropical depression as it moved further north over Oklahoma and then off towards Kansas towards the northeast. Hermine, whilst somewhat weak, at least compared to a lot of the other storms on Hurricane Week this year, it was still a pretty bad storm. 110 fatalities or more, and $740 million in damages in all, and damaging well over 800 buildings. 70 miles an hour at peak, very close to hurricane status, 989 millibars. There it is near its peak. The eye just didn't quite have enough time to form, and that was a radar shot there. Here's another one of the storm moving through Texas, where it caused significant issues. Certainly had the core very well established, and that is the result of the storm in one particular location. It was literally as Hermine was dissipating that Igor formed in the Atlantic and became the monstrosity that it was, if only it hit land, though actually it did towards the end of its life, as a matter of fact. Passed very close to Bermuda as well, but then gave Newfoundland a big hit. We think Igor was a Category 5 storm. Yes, we're saying it. According to Force 13 satellite analysis, 160 miles an hour and a pressure of 921 millibars. 4 fatalities in total, but $200 million in monetary damages, most of it in Newfoundland, and became one of the worst storms to strike the island. Plenty of pictures of the storm near its peak. Well, decide for yourself whether you think it was a Category 5 or not, but take a look at the infrared imagery is what I should suggest to you, and maybe you could be convinced otherwise. In any case, it was borderline. There's the storm as it moved towards the west-northwest, and that was it near its peak there as well. And final photo here of the damage that it left. I believe that is in Canada.
Typhoon Megi of 2010 is regarded as the deepest tropical cyclone landfall anywhere in the world of all time as of 2016. Megi occurred during the record inactive 2010 Pacific typhoon season and is regarded as the only super typhoon of that season. Though, despite that, it packed an absolute punch when it made landfall in northeastern Luzon in the Philippines on October 18th. It is regarded as the deepest landfall with a pressure of 885 millibars and 1 minute sustained winds of about 185 miles an hour. Though, despite its very intense landfall in the Philippines, it was a rather low damage and death toll count because it made a landfall where very few people live because of the danger of typhoons. And after it moved over Luzon, it re-strengthened to a Category 4 typhoon and then weakened as it moved north, making landfall in China as a minimal Category 1 typhoon and caused about the same amount of damage in China as it did in Luzon, maybe even a little bit more in China.
Now on to Hurricane Irene of 2011. A lot of people along the East Coast remember this one, of course, still after 5 years. First started to make landfall on Puerto Rico, became a hurricane whilst it was doing that, and then peaked as a Category 3 storm over the Bahamas. And they certainly got a rough day or two from the storm before it finally made another landfall on the outer banks of North Carolina and then off towards the northeast, as we all know, passing not too far away from New York. So this is what the radar imagery looked like as the storm made its venture along the mid-Atlantic region of the United States. As a significant hurricane, of course, and causing significant amounts of damage, but nothing compared to what happened the year after, though it was at least a bona fide hurricane at landfall in the US. 61 fatalities and $16.6 billion in damages were from this 125 mile an hour storm. Over 7,000 buildings damaged or destroyed, and a lot of photographic evidence to show what Irene did, mainly with strong winds, but also with flooding and surge. But it got a lot worse for parts of the northeast with Lee, which really didn't pull up many trees as a tropical storm, but as you can see, its influence was quite massive. And certainly as it moved towards the northeast, you can see what transpired after that. The storm, thanks to Katia in part, stalling over the area of the northeastern United States and towards the midwestern region there, and causing a lot of rainfall, of course. Well, Lee in total was only a 60 mile an hour storm, and its pressure was 986 millibars. Yet, the storm caused 18 fatalities and $1.6 billion in damages, damaging well over 12,000 buildings and causing a lot of flooding issues, and indeed that bridge collapse there as well, one of quite a few. And then one of the bad storms for the southern Philippines, Typhoon Bopha. I'm sure many of us are well acquainted with it, and indeed was the first storm on this Hurricane Week that Force 13 actually provided updates on. Well, there it is, moving through the Philippines, first making landfall in Mindanao as a Category 5 storm with winds of 175 miles an hour near its peak. There it is, the storm moving towards Mindanao, one of the furthest south landfalls of a Category 5 storm in the Western Pacific. So that was its peak, its pressure by our estimates, 915 millibars, and look at the fatality counts, a dreadful 1,901 estimated at least, and $1.04 billion in damages, equivalent to over 21,000 buildings from the storm. One of the beautiful shots from the International Space Station there, which took many pictures of Bopha, and this is what it looked like on the ground, much different indeed, with lots of carnage from the storm in Mindanao in particular. Whole communities shattered, as you can see on these images, and mainly that would have been due to the wind speed, but storm surge may have had some part to play in it as well, but I expect it was pretty much fully the winds with that, and perhaps inland flooding and landslides probably caused some significant issues too. Hurricane Sandy, forming in October 2012, and it did indeed in the Caribbean. First didn't know where exactly it wanted to go before it moved north and made landfall in Jamaica and then into Cuba as a Category 3. Quite a strong Category 3 as well, I would argue. And then it started looking like a hybrid system. We know the story with Sandy, but still managed to keep over hurricane status until just before it made landfall in New Jersey, which it did so with hurricane force winds. And of course it caused all that very disastrous amount of damage along the whole of the northeastern part of the United States, causing a massive amount of losses. And I'm sure the images that you're about to see will demonstrate that quite nicely. Well, the storm itself then peaked with winds of 125 miles an hour by our estimate, with a pressure of 940 millibars, which of course was achieved much later on its approach to New Jersey. 233 fatalities in all, but $75 billion in monetary damages makes Sandy the second costliest storm anywhere in the world. It also damaged or destroyed hundreds of thousands of buildings, and certainly caused big issues in New Jersey, and I think in Long Island and the New York area as well, with flooding, with the surge, and obviously the wind speeds, which will certainly cause big issues as well. There's not much for me to say that I haven't already said about Typhoon Haiyan. We all know just what it did, but let's relive it again. Becoming a Category 5 storm very, very close to Palau and caused some significant issues there, but then becoming the 195 mile an hour plus monster that it became, and then made its landfall near peak intensity by our estimates, reckoning around 194 miles an hour at landfall in Leyte over the Tacloban area. And of course that wasn't quite its first landfall either. It made several of them in the end though, and many of them as a Category 5. Haiyan is one of the most strongest storms that we've ever seen affecting the Philippines, and is certainly probably going to live in the memory for a very long time indeed. So from a scientific perspective, how strong was it? By Force 13's estimates, at peak, just before it reached the Philippines by a matter of hours, it probably reached 200 miles an hour and a pressure of 879 millibars. But in total, it's the human cost that we have to focus on: 7,000 fatalities or more, $2.8 billion in damages, and well over 1 million buildings damaged or destroyed, which I think is the highest number that I've come across for a storm that affected the Philippines. And this is what it looked like. It's not just something that happened from the satellite imagery there, that beautiful looking storm at landfall. It's the human cost that it leaves behind on land, and as you can see, it has been shown in very graphic methods just exactly what the storm did when it did make those landfalls. Whole forests probably decimated, certainly whole communities and cities were absolutely ravaged by Typhoon Haiyan around its landfall in November 2013. This is what it looked like just after the storm, I believe it is, and the final image that we may be well acquainted with from Tacloban, showing just how devastating Haiyan was. And now we're presented with Hurricane Odile of 2014. I remember it well, and the International Space Station pass that it did, of course. The storm becoming a Category 4 storm at peak, and was a sub-920 millibar Category 4 storm. Certainly not the worst storm that we've ever seen, ever. But like Lester, it is on Hurricane Week 2016, thanks to the public vote, and it did make landfall on the Baja California Peninsula, not far from its peak intensity, and paralleled the peninsula for quite a while before moving inland over Mexico and eventually just about making it over the border to the United States. At peak, the storm was around 152 miles an hour by our estimates and a pressure of 918 millibars. 18 fatalities in all, as well as $1.2 billion in damages, and over 11,000 buildings damaged or destroyed by this storm. Therefore, Odile takes its place as the 6th most costliest storm in the Eastern Pacific. In first place was Manuel, which didn't make the list. Well, would you believe it? Another Category 5, Typhoon Rammasun. First making a landfall in the Philippines there as a Category 4, and then reaching its Category 5 peak before impacting China. So at peak it was winds of 160 miles an hour as it blew through there with a pressure of 930 millibars, 195 fatalities in all, but $7.1 billion in damages. That's quite a lot. Well over 51,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed. Numbers are very much incomplete, but it was a very pretty storm in the South China Sea, and definitely one of the strongest to ever exist in that area, at least of what we've observed in the observable history. And it did make landfall in the southern tip of mainland China there, just off Hainan Island. Into early 2015 and Cyclone Pam formed in the southern Pacific, and you voted it for the top 100 list, and why not, because it did do terrible damage to Vanuatu as it slalomed through those islands near its peak intensity as a category 4 or 5. Certainly category 5 at peak, there it is, and then moving through the islands near its peak intensity, passing indeed very close to Port Vila, the capital of Vanuatu. Well, there it is on the satellite image, and certainly had quite a bit of influence about it, and certainly it was a very potent storm and a very deadly one indeed. There it is near its first close approach to the landmass, and there it is moving further south there a little bit later on. Also, I want to show you this fantastic International Space Station imagery of Pam. This was by night, which is obviously why you can see all the stars, and every so often you can see a lightning flash here and there. This is near the storm's peak, just before it affected Vanuatu, just to show you the big expanse of how much of the earth the storm covered near its peak intensity. Just a massive cloud with the big bulging eye in the middle. On the ground it didn't look so good, that's what it looked like. Pressure of 896 millibars by our reckoning, with winds of 175 miles an hour. I believe that agrees and concurs with the officials, and that's what it looked like on land. 16 fatalities, $360 million in damages, which is crippling for Vanuatu, with many thousands of buildings damaged or destroyed. Soudelor. Typhoon Soudelor was a epic storm that occurred in August 2015, though not the first storm to have ever done that, but it started from humble beginnings, as you can see, and was one of the storms to affect the Mariana Islands chain, passing very close to Saipan, and its eye, I believe, may have just about moved through there as it became a Category 2 storm, and then there it is with the new eye, the Category 5 eye that it maintained, with its peak wind speed of 180 miles an hour, pressure of 900 millibars. Then it waned a little bit and then continued towards Taiwan, which really got a bad deal in that year and indeed in this year. And slowly but surely it gradually got closer and closer, but did continue to weaken, and then eventually made landfall there as a Category 3 before moving off towards China, which it never really got there in one piece. It was probably a strong tropical storm by the time it got there. There's another look at the storm near its peak intensity, and then now we'll look at the radar imagery of the storm as it approached Taiwan there. There it is, with the eye quite clearly visible. Not quite as good as it would have done when it was a Category 5. And here's another look at Soudelor as it reached that peak intensity. Well, on the ground it looked a bit like this. Certainly that car was one victim. Doesn't count as a fatality though. 40 fatalities in all, and $3.7 billion in damages, which is quite a lot. And nearly 10,000 buildings damaged or destroyed. Certainly not the first of its kind, but one of the most recent storms, and the costliest storm to affect the region in most recent times. And now the story of Erika versus the island of Dominica, and neither side came out on top. Both of them were wrecked mutually. The storm, at least at first, started to develop and then moved towards the Lesser Antilles, blew up over those islands, and then really struggled afterwards as it moved south of Puerto Rico over Hispaniola, and that's probably really what killed it ultimately, as it tried to make its way towards the Gulf of Mexico. That's what it looked like on Dominica or nearby on one of the islands there near the centre of the storm. Certainly a lot of pouring rain, but in Dominica it caused a lot of problems to do with flooding and landslides from the storm. The torrential rain that would have fallen over the area, responsible for most of the 35 fatalities and $500 million in damages. Buildings damaged and destroyed total is probably somewhere around 4,000, but we aren't to know at this point. 50 miles an hour and 1,001 millibars at its peak is an irrelevance, really. Well, certainly a lesser storm than Soudelor, but it did still come with its issues. Typhoon Dujuan, first of all, the pronunciation issue might be one of them. And it moved towards the west-northwest and the western Pacific, of course, and certainly was pretty to look at just before its landfall in Taiwan. Here's the infrared animation of the storm as it developed, and pretty soon you'll start to see that eye pop out. I do love these new animations from the Himawari satellite, by the way, with fantastic frame rate, you could call it, and you can certainly see the dynamics of the storm during this spell here, how it wraps around itself so quickly and efficiently as it develops there. And in a minute, the land masses aren't marked on this particular animation, so it looks like the storm's doing handsomely right now, but very soon you're going to see Taiwan inconveniently get in the way and the eye just capitulates. There it goes. And then off it goes towards China after passing over Taiwan there. There's a different way to look at it, of course. We can see it from the radar perspective. This is what it looked like on approach to Taiwan, with that eye, a very wide eye indeed as well, and then started to lose composure a little bit when it did make landfall. That's what it looked like either in Taiwan or China. I'm not exactly sure where this was, but it was certainly within Dujuan. Certainly some strong winds blowing there and heavy rain falling in sheets. And also here's another satellite image view from the Himawari satellite, the visible, looking at how the storm looked when it did make landfall on Taiwan. There it was. So in all it caused 3 fatalities and over $500 million in damages, destroying at least 400 buildings, but we don't know much else in what exactly transpired over the area. 145 miles an hour at peak, 925 millibars, the lowest pressure, and certainly a one storm that certainly looked the part. Well, I guess the reason Hurricane Joaquin was voted by the public for the top 100 list, not to second guess you at all, was probably because it shocked many people in what exactly it did. It was never predicted to do much, but it did. Certainly in terms of strength, but maybe not so much in terms of what the storm actually did. It, of course, did affect the Bahamas quite significantly, those areas that the storm did affect significantly, causing over 1,000 buildings to be damaged or destroyed, I believe, and of course the sinking of the El Faro. But apart from that, the fatality count was near nil from the storm, and it could have been much worse, particularly because at one point the storm was forecasted to impact the Carolinas as a Category 3 storm. Well, be thankful that didn't occur. There is the storm as it developed, and certainly caused some issues towards Cuba and Haiti as well. It was just about under the storm's influence, and at one point we did wonder when we were doing our live streams whether the storm would eventually go towards that area, or it would keep going southwest, but it did eventually turn towards the north. There it is from the International Space Station, and then it took on its peak towards the end of its life, which I'm really not so impressed with her personally. Force 13's satellite analysis shows it was only 145 miles an hour. Might be disagreeable, but I would challenge you to take a look at the imagery and see if you could argue that Joaquin was really 25 miles an hour stronger than Nicole, looking at their comparative imageries. Pressure 931, fatalities 34 in total and $200 million in damages. Joaquin's certainly presence was felt in the Bahamas. Another storm that gets all the hype, deservedly or not, well, that's up to you to decide, but what we can tell you is the facts, and that's that Patricia was one of the strongest storms ever. It was the second most intense storm in the world and the third strongest storm in the world by Force 13's analyses of all the storms, peaking with winds from our estimates of 208 miles an hour and a pressure of 871 millibars. The storm, of course, started out in the far eastern Pacific and then developed into what we saw and what we feared was a terrible scenario for Mexico, only made slightly better because the storm weakened before landfall and that it was a sparsely populated area overall, and it could have been much worse if it impacted a little bit closer to one of the Mexican cities on the coast. The storm did of course survive inland and cause some issues in the United States, in Texas as well, in its final last breaths of life, I suppose. That's what the storm looked like from the International Space Station, and this is what it looked like on a NOAA plane. I'm sure the crew would have told you it was just another day at the office. Well, the storm peaked, again, by our estimates of 208 miles an hour. Really don't see any evidence substantiating the 215 mile an hour claim that the National Hurricane Center made. But still, it's really an irrelevance, to be honest, as to how strong it was because of what it did on the ground. 6 fatalities in all, could be higher, nearly $500 million in damages, and over 11,000 buildings damaged or destroyed by the storm. There it is on the coast of Mexico, I believe, and the damage that Patricia caused along that area of land. Cyclone Chapala forming in the North Indian Ocean, and by our analysis, by our reckoning, a Category 5 storm. Maybe the imagery might convince you of the same conclusions too, in that first peak that it did, and still looked really good as it was passing Socotra Island and then into Yemen as a significant cyclone, certainly more than what they're used to. The storm then peaking by our estimates of 160 miles an hour and a pressure of 915. Only 9 fatalities. I guess it could have been much more because of the storm was such a rare event. Monetary damages are unknown at this time, but over 2,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed by this late season cyclone.
Severe Tropical Cyclone Winston was the strongest tropical cyclone ever to make landfall on the island nation of Fiji, and also in the South Pacific Basin in recorded history. The storm formed on the 7th of February 2016 and dissipated on the 3rd of March 2016. The storm officially had a 10-minute sustained wind speed of 145 miles per hour and a 1-minute wind speed of 180 miles per hour and a pressure of around 915 millibars. It caused 44 total fatalities and damaged around $1.4 billion in 2016 currency, also the costliest cyclone in the South Pacific history. It affected the areas of Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga, Niue, and Queensland.
Yes, and it was a storm that never died. There it is, well, finally dying on the coast of Queensland. There it is, making its Category 5 landfall in Fiji. And this is what we think of it: 180 miles an hour and a pressure of 905 millibars. 44 fatalities and $1.4 billion in damages, as I'm sure was already said. And over 20,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed. Take a look at some of the images from Fiji. Certainly a miserable day, week, month afterwards from Winston. It's the last storm we've got to show you. It's Cyclone Fantala, the storm that decided it wanted to do a U-turn 3 times. And it did, because it could. It was a Category 5 storm the first time it went towards the northwest, and then it moved back towards the southeast, weakening, the eye retaining itself though, and then it decided it wanted to turn around again, really keeping people on their toes all across the southwestern Indian Ocean, because no one knew exactly where it would end up. But eventually it wore itself out, and there was hardly anything of it left by the time it reached Tanzania. At peak, though, Fantala was one of the strongest storms in the basin, 180 miles an hour and 898 millibars by our reckoning, 13 fatalities, and only, in inverted commas, $4.5 million in damages. I can assure you, if there was a bigger landmass in the eye of Fantala, it would have been a much bigger disaster than it was. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service, a Hurricane Week special. Hello and welcome, this is Force 13 Live, Hurricane Week special at the end of part 5. Wow, we made it to the end of the week already. My name's Nathan Foy, and in just a moment you'll be able to see me maybe. There we go, I knew we could do it. We're also joined by the Skype team, and there they are. You can't hear them just yet, but I will fade them in as soon as I can get my dials ready. There they are. Hi everyone, and it's a packed house tonight.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, in this packed house,
Yeah,
we're not
how was
having
it?
a
Friday.
Are we having a party? I don't know. Are we having a party in this packed house? I don't know.
I don't
Up to
know,
you.
we sort of went past the party thing when we had the end of the Atlantic Hurricane season 2 nights ago.
I should have been there. I'm sorry.
You should have been
Schoolwork
there.
sucks.
You missed out.
I know
That's
I
the
did.
sound
Was it
of
a
John,
party?
by the way, over there near the bottom right. We're also joined by Jason, David, Isaac, Hank, Marcel, Cesar, Devon, Craig, and Lee, and myself, of course. Hello. I'm
From
sure
all
there's
points of the globe.
a lot of things to talk about tonight. Guys, if any of you have got first impressions of what you've just seen in part 5, unleash them. Go.
Joaquin, Patricia, overrated. Stop talking about him. Move on.
Okay, Hank getting a
Erika was overrated anyways.
Oh dear.
We're not on the next 5 years. We're
This is
on
gonna
about
end up
now.
in a fun
Some
argument.
people- Now. Okay.
Oh my.
Now.
Jeez, I'll be right
Okay.
back.
So I
Patricia,
think
move
Joaquin
on.
is highly operated.
Right.
Okay.
Why do you think that? Go ahead.
I will say that there were definitely some storms on this list that got voted in, probably because they were bad storms in recent memory, and maybe they should have gone to other storms. I don't know, Donna, Betsy, Janet, whatever. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, none of those.
I will say that there was definitely some very interesting analyses that was conducted by Nathan here with his sat-ups, especially with Cyclone Fantala, one being bumped to 180 and two being bumped to near Gaffalo territory at 898.
Oh yes.
Definitely looked like it could have been near Gaffalo.
Which I believe would then put it second in pressures, with Chris Damia being third, if I recall correctly.
Well,
I can't recall either.
Chris Damia also had 898 millibars.
Ah, but not on the Force 13
I believe-
analysis.
Yeah, if you go back earlier, I think Nathan was 165,
909.
902, 903, something like that
909 it
level.
was.
And why'd you jump up so quickly?
Okay, then Damia would be like 4th or 5th.
Now, the reason why I didn't have it so low is because it appeared to me that Meteo France, when they said it was 898, they really didn't appear to have any basis for it, or Réunion, or whoever it was at the time. Or they didn't seem to have any. It was a satellite estimate, and that just doesn't really happen. Knowing what we know today.
And another interesting storm would have been Cyclone Nina, which only had like one good image. That's another peculiarity.
Very peculiar.
Let's see here, what else? I think the inclusion of Tropical Storm Erika on this list was certainly an interesting one, probably on the borderline of deserving, especially with the way that that was just a terrible, terrible disaster down in Dominica. And yeah, now you guys have seen all 100 storms, so if you guys haven't voted yet, go to Force13.com right now. Vote for your favorite storm. We're going to be ranking these. We're going to be putting out.
We'll try our best not to influence your vote.
No, I'm not influencing your vote, but go out, vote for your favorite storm. And
you don't even have to go out, just sit in and vote.
It's a mail-in vote, essentially.
It should be the favorite storm, not the most important storm. Or well, Patricia is not it's not that important.
Oh,
people who vote for what they feel. You know, as I say, if you live on a tiny island with a population of 1 and a storm hits that island, you're going to say that storm was the worst and no one else will.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's why I think storms like Erika and Fantala deserve to be on this list.
Except the thing is that Erika was much worse on Dominica than Fantala was on the Farquhar Islands. So you can make that argument, but it's more likely it's more likely to be a recency bias to that. I could see why people for being like that, but regardless, it's still it's probably due to recency bias. That's why Joaquin.
John's got his hand up. Go.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's one thing I like to say is I think in terms of diversity, I think in terms of how divisive we are in the system, I think Patricia we are pretty divisive on in some ways, but in the sense of our numbers are only a couple off from each other, I think, right?
Okay.
I was very conservative with this system because when I saw the 215-872, I thought it was I thought that was bull. I honestly thought it was bull. I took the highest observed recon, which was 205, I think, even though it was not.
Oh, we came out with this analysis some time ago. It's old news within the Force 13 circle, but 208, 871. Now, I just have to explain this, Hank, as to why it was down 1 millibar, is mainly due to, first of all, the gaps in the recon, allowing for some margin of error there with what it could have been, but with a wind-pressure relationship, it most likely was towards the low end of the scale.
That's what my point was going to be. The fact that they weren't in there when the storm. They left the storm and the pressure and the winds were still intensifying, so it could have been
just like Wilma.
Probably as high as 210 max. 215 is ridiculous. I have no clue where they got that number from.
Well, obviously, let's not forget this one point, which isn't particularly relevant. Maybe is that obviously they calculated in knots, so 210 miles an hour doesn't exist when you're going through 5 knot increments. But that would mean that they'd have to justify it to be 210 or more to call it 215, and I really don't think they can.
Just put it at 205. That would have been a safe bet.
205 I would have been okay with because I think, was there a data to support 205 on the recon or not? I'm trying to.
Recon, I'm not sure, but satellite, yes.
I heard a rumor going around that there was recon that said 205, but it was just a rumor, I'm assuming.
Satellite supported 205 for. I think it's even iffy if satellite supports 205. The best recon that was in the storm measured 202 at the ground with a drop, and 878.4 millibars again with a drop.
Well, you have to
So
remember,
So
though,
878.
you know, it doesn't. It's a little bit of a higher latitude. How high was it? 20 north, was it, or something like
Yes.
that? It does. The cloud tops don't have to be quite as cold for it to have the same amount of intensity as it would if it was, say, 5 degrees north or 10.
Oh, certainly.
Also, there's one thing I would like to note is the reason why I just don't, at the basis of my 875 millibar notation, is
Okay.
just that I don't think it dropped that severely in terms of the departure from what was initially thought. I just thought, drop a couple, increase the winds a couple miles an hour, dropped a couple
Well,
millibars
certainly
here
very
and there.
curious.
That's how I did.
And one thing I must say on it then, in that case, with all these opinions and such, I really don't think that anyone, whether it's an official or otherwise, could be qualified. They'd be hopelessly unqualified, and they couldn't tell you for certain whether Patricia was a particular intensity, a particular wind speed. There is no way anyone can really tell you for certain. There's no concrete data, and people are basically making guesses. And anyone who says they are right or they are extremely confident are fooling you. Or they ought not
One
to
thing
be,
I want
anyway.
to say, we really need to build a time machine.
Time machine.
Or well, we need more professional equipment for analyzing storms.
Oh, geez.
Well, I look
size.
forward to recon in the West Pacific.
Oh, yes,
well,
that's the
we
thing.
will do, Nathan.
That's something that will. It's going to come next year, I'm pretty sure. But there are actually some rumors that they're not going to fly into storms that go over 150 miles an hour, which is very frustrating because those are the storms that we need to stay in.
That's where I need the data.
For
Okay.
God's sakes, a plane went into a 2005 miles per hour hurricane and it never happened.
2005.
205.
Okay.
Oh,
I think
cheers.
it's the 2005 Atlantic hurricane
Yeah, he must
season.
have been.
Can we
That's
not
very-
talk about?
That's very
2005?
curious that I'm always
Alright.
confusing 2000 and 200.
Let's not talk about 2005 because we've
Let's-
beaten that dead horse way too much.
Right.
All right.
Let's acknowledge, we've not yet acknowledged the presence of the viewers, so let's see if we've got any comments. Let's see. I saw a comment from Mashed Potatoes saying, my analysis of Patricia, winds of 185 and a pressure of 890. Now, that's a bit
too-
low.
That's too weak. That's way
a
too
very,
I think
that's
everyone would
very
agree in this
low
room
for-
that that's a bit
for
low.
Patricia.
I mean, that's hard for me to say. It's a bit low considering it's Patricia, but yeah, it's a bit low. Oh, jeez. There are times where I don't want to talk about Patricia because that was at one point in time one of my largest contention points. Because as soon as I saw the NHC reeval, I just went into full rage mode.
Oh yeah,
For
everyone.
like a couple of days.
Everybody else.
Okay, let's get some other
And,
comments. I'm just scrolling back a little bit. Mitch is underrated in my view, says Rob Innes or Inez, I'm not sure. It gets forgotten about compared to some others, and I quite agree. What are your thoughts on Mitch?
Mitch is
everyone?
pretty forgotten.
Well,
I will say the
it
same.
depends. Go ahead, Marcel.
I will say the same. It was a devastating storm for Central America, and
Phone
not
call.
because of the winds, but because of the rains. And
I think an even better question is: do we think that? Well, obviously, Mitch's tends to be forgotten about. A, because it didn't affect any countries in the first world, and I hate to make comments like that, but that's just the way it is. It seems like whatever. If it doesn't affect the United States, it's forgotten about, which I think is stupid.
I just want to whisk through some comments here, just to cut you short on that.
15,
Awesome Dude
20,000.
Man says, Force 13, would you vote for Erika? Well, what I can say, I did vote. It was not for Erika. I just have to go through these comments here. some other people commenting. Let's see.
Well-
Expect number one to be either Katrina, Haiyan, or Patricia. Interesting. What was the strongest storm to hit the Dominican Republic?
Ooh,
Dominican Republic. Wow.
David?
That's
I would argue the 1930 Dominican hurricane.
That wasn't even a Cat
possibly.
5, though. So the thing is,
Well,
David-
David,
it was a Cat 5.
going
but-
by pressures, it was the
it was a
1930
Cat
Dominican
5, but,
hurricane.
no,
Storm.
David was a Cat 5, but because the 1930 hurricane was officially wasn't altitude, but because we don't have satellite evidence, we don't know for sure. But regardless, it doesn't really matter if those storms were absolutely devastating for the Republic.
Okay. More comments. I'm surprised Ike doesn't have more votes. Let's get the latest voting scores up right now. Actually, this
I'm
is
surprised no one
the
likes Ike.
latest. As you can see
That's
right
pretty
now,
good.
Patricia 33 votes, Haiyan 29, Katrina and Sandy 14 each, the Great Hurricane up to 10, I'm pleased to see. Odisha, Cyclone and Winston on 6, Mitch 5, Andrew, Joaquin and Soudelor on 4. As well as
So I also
Tip, by the way.
voted. So I also voted
Yeah,
that other day.
Some
so-
tips in there too.
Yeah, and poor Ike on only 2 votes. Can you believe it?
Aw, come on,
That's
people.
That's poor.
I deserve more votes.
What does Camille have in form of voting?
Oh,
That's
Camille, I
even
think
worse.
it has 0.
Really?
0.
Yeah, it's
And
got none.
Camille?
None for Camille.
That's-
That's a
Oh,
crime.
Wow. Wow.
I would
Oh, guys,
argue
why
for-
you are
No,
voting?
that storm right there was an amazing storm.
Guys,
and-
why you are voting for an overrated hurricane like Patricia and not
Oh,
a historic
dear.
hurricane like Camille? Ah.
Because they forget.
Yes, the mill was very historic.
Yeah, everyone
I would
Everyone's
actually
entitled to
go-
the vote.
resupply.
Don't feel
Very disputed on
intimidated.
whether Camille's
Can
category
we have a
5
recount?
or landfall.
Hurricane Camille was potentially a worse disaster for Mississippi than Katrina was. Now, note that I say the words for Mississippi. Don't. But you take a look at this storm. Very small, very powerful system that just came in as a Category 5 on the Gulf Coast, which hasn't happened before, at least going back to 1851. Don't. And this storm, if you adjust it for wealth normalization, population changes, and inflation itself, the storm caused $25 billion worth of damage in Mississippi alone. That's not counting all other damages in Louisiana, Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, where flooding there was extremely immense from the storm. It's just
Indeed.
Camille was the definition of a freak of nature.
I tried
There's
counting
also-
on my fingers. It didn't work.
Yeah, I was wondering what you were doing over there.
I'm trying to count. Okay, you said this state, this state, this state, this state. I was expecting to say a fifth one, and then my fingers said no.
Right. Wonderful.
I tried to retract it, and it just didn't work. Oh well.
It's also widely
Alright.
disputed whether Camille is a Category 4 or 5 landfall, too.
I think that Rainfall was Cat 5, to be honest, but then again,
I'm
people
quite
often
intrigued
disprove
to see
things.
that more than one person is saying that they think Patricia was weaker than 200 miles an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see how that could really be a possibility, considering they actually had to, considering that 200 mile an hour winds were measured in Patricia.
You can't physically go any lower than that.
Yeah,
What?
you can't go lower than 202 because there were actually winds recorded at 202. You can only go higher.
More questions. Would you ever make a Hurricane Week about top 100 major hurricanes? Well, I don't really think there's so much a market for that, so to speak. We've already done top 100 Category 5s, and we've done the top 100 in 2012. No, it was a long time ago, but I don't think we're going to revisit the top 100 in this format for quite some time, a few years. Wait for a few more storms to come and go. But yeah. but we're going to do probably other things in its place, though. Yeah, so let's see what else we have here. Oh, I see Cesar just put his thoughts in there.
Exactly. Well, after the Hurricane Hunter found 200 miles per hour of winds inside the storm. I just thought that they missed a little bit of Patricia because it continued strengthening when the plane was flying over Patricia, and that's why I say that it was 206 miles per hour. Pressure, well, not that,
Right.
not comments there.
So anyone have any thoughts about Chapala, by the way?
I know
Chapala.
someone in the fan room does, but
What's
in my
that?
opinion, I think that Chapala probably was a Cat 5, not for a very long time though, but it was
I agree.
still, it was still a Cat 5. Hurricane landfall in Yemen. I don't think I really need to say much else.
It was Cat 5 for probably like 6 hours, if that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Probably about
not
the
for
same
very-
amount of time as Matthew was. Oops, I did it again.
Oh, don't talk about Matthew. Jesus, don't talk about
God
Matthew.
damn it, Nathan.
I think Matthew was.
That is a
Oh,
bone of
you-
contention you should not touch for at least 5 years.
Yeah, Matthew.
Quite a while.
Along with Otto not being a Category 3.
We don't talk about Matthew here in relation to its peak intensity because I gotta tell you what, that was just a messy storm in general.
Someone else
Yeah.
asked me.
You might not want to enrage our.
Well,
our
Devin tends to downplay storms. But the thing is with
Yeah, he
Matthew, the thing with Matthew is that very cold cloud tops. Not a very good eye. Pretty poor eye, but not a very good one.
It was small.
Cat 5 briefly. Now, briefly. Keyword.
I just want to
3
divert
hours,
your attention
3
to some
hours.
more comments here. Steven says
Oh,
next
God.
year will be the top 100 most disappointing storms. That might be quite funny. Also, what was the best model of 2016?
HWRF.
Is it as clear cut as
The
that?
God model.
But
HWRF
then again-
God model.
But then again, if you look at it, none of the models are actually the best.
Hmm.
Because next year the HWRF could
True.
also have a stinker, so you can't really say any of them are actually the best.
Look forward to
Because
seeing what it is
obviously, as I
next
said,
year.
they can have a stinker.
Let's see.
All of the
would
supposed upgrades to the HWRF that were made in March and April, and I think it did worse than it did last year.
Wow.
That's not true at all in any regard.
What the?
Would you ever make a week for
Would you have
top
to say
100
something?
strangest landfalls? Well, we could do top 100 strangest storms maybe. But I'm not going to speculate as to what next year's feature might be. Was Otto truly a Category 3? Well, we think so.
Very
I
likely.
think so.
Even the NHC said it could have been a Cat 3. They said in their discussion, they said at least 95 knots. At
Did they now?
least.
So that opens
could-
up a door there for potential upgrading in post-analysis then.
Wait for that
I-
PSA, folks.
I think it's pretty
Now,
likely.
Public
this-
service.
I don't know.
Post-season upgrade.
Now, I don't know if this is pointing out inconsistencies within their analysis program or whatnot, but I think Otto looked just as good as, if not better than, Hurricane Danny, which, if you remember, was 125 miles per hour, according to
Well,
the
but Danny was originally 115 and it was upgraded in post analysis.
Danny, just
Danny was ridiculous. The upgrade was absolutely
If we did
nonsense.
polls on
I-
this and say, do you agree with the Hurricane Center's upgrade? I wonder how many people would say
I
yes
think
or no.
Danny.
Oh God.
I think the upgrade of Danny was a fail, a total fail, a total and complete fail.
Oh
Yep.
dear. That's one way of saying it.
What about the rest?
Well, they must have upgraded the whole Storms of the Atlantic season of that year.
That's
It
what I'm
was-
saying. It's what about the rest?
That's a joke.
And except for one storm, because if they did this with one storm, then this storm would have been even more overrated than it actually was, and that storm was Joaquin. They didn't upgrade Joaquin, which I'm very thankful for.
Oh
Over the
yes.
5 ever.
Okay.
It was
Joaquin
Espen
was-
wants to know, about the upcoming winter. I know that there's a lot of cold heading for the United States next week or this week.
Yes, there is.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just really big.
To get down to the mid 40s over here.
Particularly for
It's
the western side of
We,
the
we could actually see some teens in December, which is very rare in Central Texas. And in December, to see teens.
When December?
Temperatures below 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, he said teens. My bad. My hearing's kind of today.
Yeah, not looking good over there then.
It's not looking good at all.
Supposed to get some
That's right.
have a marginal chance for severe storms over in my area today and tomorrow, which will be fun.
We're supposed to get at least 4 to 5 inches.
I can hear your Hank get cut off.
Well, we're supposed to get at least 4 to 5 inches of rain this weekend.
Wow.
Awesome, dude, man. Just put in his predictions. 20 named storms, 15 hurricanes, and 5 majors.
For next year, I assume.
That's a lot of hurricanes.
No, come on.
Whoa!
Whoa! Easy.
Hello.
Now,
Whoa.
I'm actually going to probably overstep a few boundaries here, but I certainly don't think that a 20 named storm season next year is out of the question.
Oh, yeah.
Especially next year. I'm a little concerned about it actually being very active worldwide in general, not just in the Atlantic.
But it's still too early to actually say for certain what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We still need to look at other things.
I wouldn't mention next year though.
I think it's only natural at this point.
The thing is, next year is that we just have to look at, these factors that go into, the hurricane season, how active it will be. Obviously, you got El Nino, La Nina. You got to see if you got a positive or negative PDO in the northeastern Pacific. You got to see the Atlantic tripole pattern, see if it's positive, negative, whatever combination that is favorable for development. It really just all depends on these factors that I just listed, as well as other things.
I will suggest, though, just as a general rule of thumb, I'm not saying that this happens every year, but just as a general rule of thumb, usually you put down a thing of named storms, and we'll get to your question, Stephen, here rather soon because it ties into what I'm about to say. You start off with a certain amount of named storms, and usually roughly half of them become hurricanes. And usually, roughly half of those become majors, from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's what the average suggests. 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 majors is normally the average. So it's basically just like cutting in half each time.
Right.
It's
it's not a perfect relationship. Like you can go to 1996, and almost every single named storm that year became a hurricane. And almost every single hurricane became a major. So you have ridiculous seasons like that, where I think 1996 had, 12, 13 named storms, and it came out with 16.
Then you've got a year like 2013.
And you got like 2013, 13 named storms, 2 hurricanes, no majors.
And a year like 2012,
hurricanes, no majors.
And you can get a year like 2012 where you get 19 storms, 10 hurricanes, and only 2 majors. So it could just really depend, strictly just on how the conditions ahead of these storms are looking like.
So you reckon maybe that right now it might be favouring a sort of enhanced version of this year next year.
That's what I'm looking at. Here's actually an interesting question that might spark a debate. Do you guys know about the 1996 Lake Huron cyclone?
Oh,
no.
Not the Huron.
Oh, God, no.
No. No more, please.
Rage quit.
I guess nobody else wants to make a comment on it, so I will.
No comment.
Nope.
No comment.
Oh, nope. On the comments.
So let's move on.
That was a very interesting type storm, and it kind of shows that it's not necessarily just the warm waters that you need to have tropical cyclone-like characteristics. It also has to do with the upper atmosphere temperature and it's actually right in the maximum potential intensity equation. You go ahead and look at it, and you'll see that the temperature of the outflow layer of the storm is factored right into it. It's very important. And if you end up having a very cold upper atmosphere, you can get the same amount of evaporation that would be required to form one of these cyclones as it would be for a 26, 27, 28 degrees centigrade ocean. Take Hurricane Alex of 2016 or Hurricane Alex of 2004 or Hurricane Chris of 2012, Cyclone Katarina of 2004. All of those storms developed over very cold air pockets aloft, which allowed Alex to be 100% tropical.
I would argue that. I think it was probably.
Here comes another argument.
Oh Lord!
I think that there's probably at least 80% tropical. I wouldn't say entirely tropical because I saw that one or two maybe.
It was close to tropical, but not 100%.
I think you can really say, though, about the hurricane, the Great Lakes, you can pretty much call them a hurricane as much as you call those cyclones in the Mediterranean Sea a metacane. It's basically the same type of phenomenon there. It's not really a hurricane, but certainly hurricane-like in many ways.
Let's keep our comments brief here just a moment. What was that, Hank?
It's nothing really important.
Okay, I just want to go on to the next question here. And Haiyan, what do you think? Do you agree with Force 13's landfall intensity of 194 miles per hour after its 200 mile an hour peak?
I think it was a little bit stronger, but I'm kind of pretty agree about it.
Are we saying that Haiyan made landfall in Tacloban?
Yes.
Okay, then I would agree.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm agree with that. It was pretty stormy. It is the most intense storm to ever make landfall.
In terms of wind speed, to make landfall.
Yeah, the thing is, the thing that you really had to change. The thing that you really had to change with Haiyan was its pressure. It was not 895 millibars in any way, shape, or form. It was most likely in the high 870s at least. I don't see any way how it could be at 895. That just seems ridiculous. I don't know.
That just boggles my mind right there.
Yeah, it is.
I can see that. I can see that. I can understand that.
But with no evidence. We have just as much evidence as they do.
Where's the numbers? Where are the numbers at? I don't see any numbers. I see nothing but satellite imagery. That's it.
Indeed. And that's all they have.
And basically, you can't
really
pull up a whole lot. You can't pull up a whole lot using satellite imagery. That's why, hopefully recon for storms like this and storms in general becomes easier and more accessible to be done on systems. Right. So we can get data, more accurate data.
Yeah, in a few moments I might entice everyone to do a bit of Guess the Storm if you want to do that. But
I've got 3 storms ready to rapid.
I have a pretty nice one too.
We'll just hold off for that for a few minutes. I just want to invite any more questions if there are any. The latest scoring, by the way, I don't think anything has changed since we went on the air. Patricia 33, Haiyan 29, Katrina and Sandy on 14, and the Great Hurricane on 10 public votes. If you want to see your storm higher up the pecking order there, well, you might want to vote for it if you haven't already. force13.com/HW/2016. Of course, those of you who may have been waiting until you've seen all the storms on Hurricane Week, well, they've all appeared now, so you can rest assured that you're not going to be tricked tomorrow with some information that you would have wanted. Everything's been gone through now, and you have around 24 hours or a bit less than that now to put in your votes.
Anyways, Mashed Potatoes brings up a very interesting question. I personally disagree with his notion here, but for reasons that I really don't think I should get into on the show. But he says that, Force 13, do you guys agree that Camille made a Category 5 at landfall because I do not.
I think
It was Cat 5 at landfall.
I think there is a lot
And
of
I think that's
information
interesting. I certainly don't think it was 190 at landfall. I think that's completely
definitely not.
preposterous.
Yeah, it's really.
It was
disputed whether
operationally
it was
190
5 or not.
miles an hour landfall, 909 millibars. That's since been revised multiple times, and will probably continue to be revised until the end of time.
Well, what new information could come to light?
Well,
it's. I'm just saying that the National Hurricane Center's reanalysis program is slowly working step by
yeah,
step
they've not even got there, have
towards
they?
1969, and Camille's going
That's
to
gonna be the
be
final
inevitably not overlooked, but re-looked over again.
They'll bring it down to a Category 4 at peak
Hey,
watch.
It's
Oh
widely
yeah, of
disputed.
course they're gonna downgrade Carla to a 4. They're gonna downgrade Patty to a 4. They'll probably put Inez down to a 3. Probably put Flora down to a 3. They'll probably put Camille down to a 2. It's ridiculous.
Nathan,
that was
can I speak?
It's really widely disputed whether it was a 4 or 5 at landfall. There's a lot of information to prove it was a 4, and then there's some to prove it was a 5. It's just really uncertain. Yeah.
Indeed. John, go ahead.
Yes, I think more or less Camille being revised has become a reoccurring gag in terms of the NHC's interesting things that they do in their free time.
Well, it was basically that era's Patricia. You have to realize that. It was literally the Patricia of its time. So
Yeah,
how
I know.
we're always looking at Patricia and Haiyan now as being these extremely powerful benchmark storms, that's what Camille was like back in 1969.
Of course. Questions from the same person. Electric Blue says, what do you plan on making in Hurricane Week 2017? Well,
That's
even
a very
I don't
hard
know
question.
the answer to that yet, considering how Hurricane Week 2016 is not finished. Usually the plans are made public knowledge in early summer or late spring. And also, what do you think 2017 Atlantic hurricane and Pacific typhoon seasons will be like?
we
I think the typhoon.
We mentioned the Atlantic. In the Pacific, then?
I think the Pacific will be less active than this year.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can see that.
And here's this one, Nathan, for the Southern Hemisphere.
What's that? Prediction for the Southern Hemisphere.
Prediction for this summer from the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, that is much more immediate, indeed.
Yeah.
Have you got an opinion?
In the Southern Hemisphere, I think it will be active, actually.
David?
Well, Fiji's looking at 4. I'm looking at 8. Not sure what the Indian Ocean is. I think it's about 6.
Yeah.
And keeping an eye on the area northwest WA coast in coming weeks.
Electric Blue has asked one of the big questions. Could you explain to the viewers why a Category 6 shouldn't be added? Oh, here we go. We just got complete pandemonium in the room. No one's going to get the answer.
Clearly
Have a good night. See you later.
removed the message.
Oh Lord.
Outrageous.
I will
That's not
say
me.
that,
I didn't remove that message.
That's insane.
All right. So let's address. I think in order to understand why why Category 6 shouldn't be added to the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. I think it's first to understand the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale and what it stands for, and that's mainly the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale is basically a scale to determine how much damage the wind and wind alone that a storm will cause, based on a factor known as the wind load or wind force, which goes up proportionally as wind velocity squared.
Devon, as the Earth increases in population, you get the feeling that more and more it's becoming obsolete.
Yes. And I think it's not necessarily. I think it's not necessarily obsolete. And by the way, to go back to the question,
maybe not obsolete, but less relevant than it should be.
Right. As far as Category 6 is concerned, Category 5 was put in place by Safford Simpson. One of them's Robert, one of them's Herb. I can't remember which one's which. But they set Category 5 at 137 knots, and anything higher than that was complete devastation, complete destruction to them. So if you add on another category, you're saying greater than complete destruction, which can't really happen. So
I
that's
guess
why
it might be somewhat misleading.
Is obsolete. Now, as
Devin.
the Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale itself, I don't think that it should be used. I think that it is deplorably inadequate at determining how much damage a storm will cause. And I think that we should, if you want, because the Japanese scale, but you take a look at the Japanese scale or the Saffir-Simpson scale or the Australian scale, Southwest Indian Ocean, North India, it doesn't matter. It's all based on wind and wind alone. Wind is a small factor in how much devastation a storm will cause. And I think in order to adequately get across how much damage a storm will cause, you need to factor in the wind, size, forward speed, landfall, angles, topography, all that stuff. And we've got pretty accurate knowledge of all this stuff now, especially with the Cygnus aircraft that's going to be being launched soon, that will be able to very accurately determine the wind radii of tropical cyclones from outer space using GPS signals. And I think that's amazing. I think that is absolutely amazing.
All right, Devin, we must move on. Let's hear from John first. I'll get everyone in here.
So when you're saying that Category 6 is like damage on top of very catastrophic damage, is that like saying, in terms of math, in a sense, is it like saying that X is greater than infinity in this case? It just doesn't make sense.
Hank, you want to speak next to you?
Well, not really, but
okay, Isaac, you had something.
I know that.
Oh.
I know that Devin said that I know that Devin said he had some storms up for Augusta storms. So.
Oh yeah, we'll get on to that in a moment. Let's hear from Isaac first.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to talk about before Devin kind of went away.
Well, I guess it's time to guess the storm with 15 minutes left.
I got one idea. I have one idea.
Now, I really think this is unfair. There is 11 people in this room. Don't you think some of you should join the fans team, the viewers team? No.
Nope. No.
That sucks.
Okay.
Well, maybe we should have two live teams. Maybe we should have two live teams then.
Okay, here's
live teams.
You could
plus
split
the viewers.
it into teams here.
You know what? Why not we do? How many Americans are on this call?
Oh dear.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got
only 3 or 4 people. 4 Americans. Actually, 3 Americans in this call. Damn.
Well, how about
why
this? No, that's not going to work very well.
I was thinking if there were more people. I was thinking about doing like East versus West or something. I don't know, or North versus South. I don't know, because I know there are good portions. There's a good portion of this chat room that's in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Right now. So, or we could just,
Well, the viewers are going to be very angry.
Oh dear.
They always are.
Yeah, I was thinking of that one, Steve, with the top row versus the bottom row on the screen here. The top row consists of Jason, David, Isaac, Hank, and Marcel, and the bottom row is everyone else.
Oh, you have someone that looks up
Craig,
storms.
John, and Lee.
Okay, how about we put Nathan as a part of whatever team is presenting the guest the storm?
I got the storm here.
I'm going to take part in it.
All right,
guys
you
ready?
got ready for this?
I don't think you should, Nathan, because you know all the storms.
No, I don't.
So I don't think you should take part
I
in
know
that.
less than some other members.
So I think you should let other people answer. So, yeah.
Well, who wants to begin?
You guys ready?
All right.
Ready? Here it is.
Let's begin.
Oh my.
Oh.
Let
What
the
is
race
this?
begin.
Oh God.
Good luck to everyone.
I will
Is this-
win. Oh
this
dear,
Devin's
I will
turn
not
still?
win.
Let me zoom it in. Let me zoom it in. a little bit.
Caesar, you selfish bugger. We're working as a team, you.
Okay, so which team am I on? Cesar team?
You're on
Yes, I am.
Team B, or
Well-
whatever you want to call yourself.
John,
Wow.
I'm triggered.
Okay, calm down.
Well, technically,
I'm
that is
just
just a
kidding.
cloud. I don't even see that's a tropical.
All right.
Walls. Okay, this is clearly a hurricane.
Yeah.
Tropical Storm Nadine.
It's
I
in the West
am- I'm
Pacific.
actually
It was in the West
unaware of
Pacific.
this.
So it's
I
a
am-
typhoon.
I
That's
will
what that,
admit
it's
that
in
I'm
the West
unaware
Pacific,
of the
and
peak
storm is in-
intensity of
yeah, typhoon.
these the two of my storms. This is one of them. But I believe it was not a hurricane.
No. Yeah. It's not a hurricane. It's a typhoon, and it was in the West Pacific.
There's 2 screenshots.
Okay,
There's
nice.
2 on at the same time. Ah.
Yep. Slink, you know.
We're looking at Devon's, I believe. Is that
Storm
right?
team.
Yes.
Isaac, we'll just save yours for now, would you?
Okay. News.
We'll put yours up next. The one that we're looking at on the screen right now. Stephen thinks it's Otto still going.
I don't think
This is a
it's also
hurricane.
still going, but
This is
it's a
Gonzalo.
good guess. Honestly, that is actually probably the best guess.
It's the only one.
This is
Nadine.
Gonzalo.
It's not that. Is this tropical snow? And wait, actually, maybe is this tropical storm Oscar? That's 27.
Oscar. No.
It is not Gonzalo.
It is not Gonzalo.
And it's not Nadine for the last time.
No, it is not. Thank you for reminding me you made that.
Devin, I said Gonzalo, not Gonzalo.
Can
Done.
Not bad.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, good lord.
The viewers have a clue, by the
I'm
way.
going to look up this storm now, and yes, I can now confirm that this is a tropical storm.
Oh,
Nice.
I guess
Nice.
coming in for Typhoon
I
Songa,
think-
they call it.
Song.
They call
Songa.
it Songa.
I think it's this
Shut up,
is
John.
tropical tropical storm. Jesus, I forgot the name.
Storm Jesus.
Oh my, it's not that funny.
Christ.
Okay, how about Lisa?
GTM.
I think this is tropical storm Wally.
No one knows, by the way.
No, you
Lisa.
Nor
Wally.
do I. I don't know if you could
Oh my
possibly zoom
goodness.
in on that at all.
I am dying.
I would prefer not to.
Oh.
Lisa?
That I will tell you that zooming in isn't going to help the resolution at all. It's,
Yeah, clearly, but I'm
No.
just
Danny?
trying to figure out whether that might be a landmass at the top right, is it?
I can't. I will confirm that there is definitely no landmass in this picture.
Oh dear.
That looks
Is
like
this
it's one of the
Lisa?
Is it-
Landmass in this picture, and it's an Atlantic storm, so we can get this.
Here's a
going.
guess then. Tropical storm Erika from the viewers.
Erika, no.
And
Is
Fiona.
it Hurricane
It
Danny?
is
Fiona.
What about
This
Danny?
is tropical storm Dolly.
Is this
Dolly.
is this Carl at one point?
Is
Coral.
the storm?
Ian. Tropical
name-
storm Ian.
Nathan, is my mic on?
Is
or
it
not?
Danny?
Yes, it is on.
Danny?
Danny.
It
Lisa!
is-
A viewer guess.
Lisa.
A viewer guess for Nicole.
Nicole. Oh, that we did not do Nicole. No, it's not.
What do I want to do,
This
Nicole?
storm did occur during the 1990s.
Wow.
Oh, right.
That helps.
Hmm.
Tanya.
No.
There's only one
It is-
Tanya.
It is
Ivan.
Dean? Wait, Dean? No, Dean was
Dean?
count. That's a no.
No,
Never mind.
Dean, I'm sorry.
Ivan.
Is this drop? Oh, is this
tropical storm, not hurricane?
A viewer guess for Gustav.
This is tropical storm.
Is it tropical?
Alex of 1998.
That is probably, now looking at the track of the storm, that's probably the best guess thus far.
Okay.
Tropical storm Cesar of 1990.
What was I can't even talk. I can't talk, people.
More
Then what
viewer
are you doing right
guesses
now, then?
coming in
my
thick
goodness.
and fast. Frederick.
But anyways, what were I completely missed what Hank said.
Oh.
Is it
Hank said
tropical storm Cesar of 1990?
Yes.
No.
I can confirm that this storm is a hiccup.
Over to Isaac.
Now, moving on.
Isaac.
What storm is this?
Well, it's obviously Western Pacific because it's -90 on it, so.
Oh,
very well done, Hank. I never thought about it was me in the 1990.
I'm gonna sound like a complete putz here, but is this the 1991 Bangladesh cyclone?
No.
I can't
It's not
see
even a
another.
cyclone.
Looks a lot like it.
It's on,
this is
Isaac's webcam, so if you familiar.
This is Cyclone.
It's not a cyclone.
Irene? No, it's not Irene.
It's not a cyclone. It's
First
not.
guess from the viewers for Irene.
No.
Don't
No more, please. No more.
Fool.
This is Typhoon Haiyan.
No.
No, what is it?
I'm
not very high right now.
This is going to be. Jesus. I'm trying to think of storms that have had pinhole eyes.
Soudelor.
In recent memory.
That's a
That
lot
looks
of
like
Zoom it
that
out.
good.
Let me zoom it out.
Okay, the only storm that's coming to me right now is Pam.
Oh.
Oh, that helps.
Oh, that zooms out. That zooms out a little bit, and that helps immensely.
Let's get the viewers. Gabrielle.
No.
And the
Is it a
question
hurricane?
from
No,
them,
it's
is
not.
it a hurricane?
No, it's
not a hurricane. It's a typhoon.
Martinez says Bart. Which it really doesn't look like. Really.
Bopha. I think his name was Billis. Billis. Yeah, we'll go with Billis. Billis.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Maybe I just like saying the word Billis.
Maybe.
We've got a zoom out there.
Can you
again?
Isaac? Can you give us what? If it was it a Cat 5?
It was a Category 5.
Yeah. I reckon it
was a
might have
category.
been maybe one of the 1997 storms.
This is Jelawat.
Whenever you hear Cat 5 in the West Pacific, you immediately think of the 1997 storms.
I
But
don't.
none of the 1997 storms had cloud tops that cold.
It's this Typhoon. This is a kind of an out there guess, but it's this Typhoon Yuri of 1991.
No, sir.
I don't
It is
think
not Jelawat.
I'll go with Yvette.
Ooh.
No.
Guess is coming
Typhoon.
in for Sarah,
Typhoon
Gay, and
Keith?
Forrest.
No and no.
Not Forrest. Forrest looked horrible on satellite.
You'd be surprised in how bad it looks.
Nathan,
Yes.
message to you directly, mate.
Yes.
Martinez says Gay. Electric Blue 175 says Typhoon Forest.
Nope.
Martinez says Mike.
Mike.
Nope.
Is Typhoon Typhoon Ivan?
What did you say? What did you say? You got interrupted.
It is Ivan.
No.
No.
Oh, please speak one at a time, because if we speak all at once, we can't really hear what you guys are saying.
Is it? So no, John. It's not open bracket ACA.
Chaba.
No.
Megi.
Electric Blue says Typhoon Rita.
Nope.
That's an interesting guess.
X can say Zeb.
No. It's
Yeah,
not Zeb.
that was one that Isaac showed yesterday, so I'd be surprised.
Somebody didn't can.
I guess for Joan now.
No.
Zach. I guess I'm gonna start exhausting some obvious options here.
Typhoon Francisco.
Nope.
Zach. Bopha.
Ligma.
Nope. I will say, I'll give you a hint. And this storm did happen in the 1990s.
Yeah, I thought it might have been.
1990s. Devin was right about it.
Here, yes, more or less. Here comes the hook. Ooh, good lord, no, not that.
That's very, very difficult.
Gay because why not?
Oh, I think is this Typhoon Winnie?
No.
No.
Ginger.
Winnie was larger. Didn't have good cloud tops either.
Typhoon. I know.
Typhoon Keith.
Typhoon Melor, 2009.
No.
Because that's very 90s, Cesar.
Yeah, I know. That's why.
Well, I think I got it. Hurricane Cesar Douglas.
No. The storm.
Ouch.
I will narrow it down a little bit more. The storm happened between 1993 and 1997.
Okay.
Where is it?
So it's not going to be Flo then, X-Can.
I'm thinking a strong storm. Typhoon Angela.
Yes, Caesar's right.
Yeah.
Oh!
It had to have been.
Dang it, I was thinking
Why did we
Angela.
think of Angela?
Angela looked a lot better than that. That's interesting.
Devin, you realize that might not be at peak.
This is at peak. This is at peak right here.
Yes.
This is peak.
That's one for Hank,
That's
one for
very
Cesar.
nice.
So both teams are equal.
Okay.
This is going to have to be our last one.
Okay, nice. Well, guess what? We're going to go to this one. Good
Is
luck.
that Ivan? Is that Ivan?
Hey, I was screen sharing
dear.
one.
Oh dear,
Is that
everybody
Ivan?
fighting for us.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, let me guess. It's a cloud. I win.
I was screen sharing a storm.
Is that
It's a cloud.
Is that Tropical Storm Alberto of 1989 or 1988? Sorry.
1988. Oh, that was
I say
the one
it's
that hit
cloud.
Nova Scotia. No.
I say it's a cloud. Literally.
You're probably not that far off.
Sorry. Wait, you were showing it. You were showing a different image at first.
That was me.
I have to look at the stream because
That was me trying to do a storm.
This is a hurricane in first instance.
I will say that this was a tropical storm according to the JTWC, but I, looking at it, upgraded it to a hurricane for 6 hours.
You mean a typhoon?
Yes, a typhoon.
I think it is.
This doesn't help. It's gonna.
Oh wow, that's pretty difficult.
Oh dear.
Damn. I think it is a hurricane. First of all, in first instance.
It's not a hurricane in this image, I don't think.
Oh well, so it is tropical storm Damri.
Damri.
Noctem
coming
in.
This storm came before the advent of modern names, so you get to pick between any year between 1978 and 1999.
I don't think
my.
we're gonna get it in the time allotted. No one knows.
Typhoon, well, or tropical storm. What? I don't know the name. I don't know the
I
name.
will say that this storm shares a name with somebody who has been on Force 13.
Oh, Cam.
Carl.
Hey,
Cesar.
come on, games. My tropical storm in 1990.
It is not
Right.
Isaac.
Carl.
It's not
Cesar
Isaac.
will be.
It is not Carl.
It's
Okay.
It is Nathan.
Michael.
No.
Michael.
It is not Michael.
It is
Daniel.
Isaac.
What?
Isaac's already been said.
Oh.
By me.
So
it's
Strat.
What?
No.
Is this? No, that wouldn't be that.
Not Typhoon. No, it's not
Actually-
David, is it?
Nelson.
Stephen wants to know if
Nelson.
it's Daniel.
It is not
John.
Daniel. Good
Is it
guess.
Caesar?
John.
It's Caesar.
Not
Is it
John.
John?
Not Czar.
Max.
It's not
John.
Pablo.
Is it Nelson?
It is not Nelson.
It's not Pablo.
John.
2 people have this name on the project.
Oh God.
What? 2 people?
Yep.
Oh,
What?
oh. Shoot. Who is that person?
Marcel.
Shows
Is
how
it
much we know
Chris?
our team.
No, it is not
Marcel.
Chris.
Damn it.
It's not. It can't be myself.
As Sandra.
It is not Marcel. What'd you say?
Sandra, I said.
Nope.
There's never been a Sandra on the team.
Martinez says John. Interesting guess.
I
John
said
John.
John
This
first.
guessing.
Only thing I can think of would be Michael, but that's not correct.
It's not Michael.
Martinez
Not
also
Jason.
says Jason.
Not Jason. Michael's the
David.
closest.
It is.
Is it Devin?
Mike.
You guys are so close with Michael.
Please don't tell me it's
It's
Mike.
it's just Mike.
Is it Mark?
It is not Mike.
No.
Mark.
No, it's not Mark.
It is.
Maybe it's Mick.
Is it Mitch?
It is not Mitch.
Is it Mark?
It is.
Yeah, I just guessed it. I didn't think it would be.
Is it Matthew?
No.
It is
Come on, guys.
Adam.
But I said Mick, M-I-C-K.
It is not Nick.
Not.
Has
Is
David
it
been
Nick?
tight, Devin?
Is it Nick?
No, David has not been tight. I'll guess David.
David's not.
It is Tanya.
What? There were two. When were the 2 Tanyas?
It's the
It
Is this real
is.
life?
It is Craig.
Yeah,
When
right.
were the 2 Craigs?
Benny.
No, it's not Craig.
Close with Michael. and Now you're so far away.
Benny.
Clearly not.
You
It
are
is-
1 name away with
Is it
Michael.
Marcel? Marcel.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
It
Is
is.
it? God dang it! Oh.
No, there's.
It's not Marcel. Oh wait. Oh yeah. Never mind.
It is. Robert.
Yeah.
or Rob. I don't know.
well, you guys have 1 more guess.
Oh my. Oh my. Oh my.
Okay.
I need help.
Chris. No.
I don't think the viewers have got it.
Is this?
It
Oh.
picked.
It is.
What piece is this?
Stephen says Lee.
Chris. It is Chris.
We already guessed
I
Chris.
already guessed.
Somebody said Lee. I had to Nathan.
Yep, Stephen said Lee.
Lee, is that going to be your final guess?
It's his final guess.
Well, that's the final guess.
Is that everybody's final guess?
Well, if it's his
That's
final
Yeah.
guess, the viewers get a point if it's right.
Okay, well, it is not Lee.
Oh dear.
What
the
was
correct
it?
answer, Scott.
Oh.
my
That's poor.
With Michael Scott and me, Devin Scott.
Oh goodness.
Hi,
That
Devin
is
Scott.
harsh.
Well, that's not.
Now
No.
that's quite the ending
No.
right there.
Yeah, we
God,
gotta go.
Skype kicked me.
We
again.
gotta go. We'll be back again tomorrow. Sorry, Hank, I have to cut you off here because we've overrun. But we'll be back
Good
again
night.
soon.
Stay safe.
We'll be here for a 3-hour special tomorrow. Plenty of more time to do all this stuff and have a good old chat. 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. UTC. If you want a reference of what time it is right now, it's 34 minutes past midnight. So if you, what time is it on the East Coast? 5 p.m. it will start. 8 p.m. it will finish tomorrow's show. Don't miss it. That's where we.
It's
figure out
7:30
what-
now.
That's where we figure out what the results are. For now, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Have a great
night.
night.
Tomorrow. Thank you,
Wear
everybody.
clean on these.
Good night. Thanks for listening.